If you like this episode, please subscribe, share with others, rate and review so we can continue to bring you great programming.
This is The Thing About Cars, a podcast for car enthusiasts and the people who love them.
Welcome to The Thing About Cars. I'm your host, Mickey Desai, one of your hosts. The others are around the table. We've got Dave. How are you, Dave?
I am hosting.
What are you hosting?
Wouldn't you like to know?
And Misty, all the way from across the pond in the Netherlands. Misty, how are you?
I am moist by proxy.
By proxy? What happened?
Singapore happened.
Oh.
And the heavens opened. And because it's a night race, guess what happens when wet tracks meet night races?
I see.
I thought it was doing a Simon and Garfunkel song.
I'm getting a little moist now that you mention it. So,
No one needs to think about that.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. And our special guest for the day, the one and the only Paul Sher. Paul, did I pronounce it correctly?
That works wonderfully. Good morning.
Good morning, Paul. And Paul does some really cool stuff, which we'll talk about during the guest segment. If you don't know about Paul's work, and if you're not connected to him and you can't see his Facebook feed or whomever, I look at his photos and I'm insanely jealous every time I look at whatever he's working on. But we'll get to that in a minute. Our trivia question for today, and you guys might have to tell me if I've asked this one already. What was the last new car sold with a cassette tape player? Have we done that one?
You have not done that one. Or at least
We have not done that one. We've done T-tops. We've done the ventilation window.
Windows, yeah.
So
what was the last new car sold with a cassette tape player? Was it A, 2010 Lexus SC430? Was it a 2010 Cadillac CTS wagon? Was it a 2010 Lincoln Town Car? Or was it a 2010 Rutan? So we'll answer that question at the end of the show.
Other than the Rutan, it's a heavy category of old white people cars.
And the thing that I thought was going to be the answer is not on the list, which is kind of what surprises me. I thought it was going to be a Crown Vic, but it's not one of our answers. So one of these other cars was the last new car sold with the cassette tape player. Let's turn our attention now to Paul. Again, your Facebook feed, sir, makes me absolutely insanely jealous, but I'm not going to steal your thunder. Can you tell my friends?
I'm very happy that you enjoy it.
Yeah. What do you do?
I have been since age 17 building cars for the custom cars for the film and television industry. And it has been a wonderful career. It's something I did by accident. When I start name dropping, it's things like Batman, Back to the Future, the Fast and the Furious series, things like RoboCop that I really enjoyed, even though what you all got to see was a Taurus and it's not what we built for the film, but it's been some really incredible things. I went to California on a childhood vacation and got offered a job and never went home.
Wow.
So I'm bi-coastal right now. My parents left me my childhood house. So I packed up a lot of stuff, moved a bunch of cars out to that property. And I've been working on both coasts for studios on the East Coast, as well as everything out here. I'm currently in LA, enjoying the hospitality of StarCarCentral.com and their massive collection and their toys. And we're building some great things. A Mach 5 is in the driveway with fresh paint on it. There's a vintage screen-used Black Scorpion, if anybody remembers that sci-fi series. That's here. That's in need of restoration. I think that was put together in the dark, had to be, but it's going to be beautiful again one day. There's a 40s Batmobile here, A-Team, which I think was the most recent purchase, and that has an 8-track tape deck. And a CD and a CB. I don't know if you guys did that. What was the last vehicle sold with a factory CB?
We have not, but that needs to go on the list.
The answer to that question would be the A-Team van. All right.
That's hilarious.
Right. And we've got the Shagbar here, the Jurassic Park truck, which it's amazing. You forget when you're driving the Jurassic Park truck around LA just how popular that show is. People are screaming and waving, and you're like, why are you looking at me? And then you're like, oh, wait, look outside. I'm driving the Jurassic Park truck. And some wonderful vehicles.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
So, yeah, love it. I haven't had a bad day at work in my entire life.
I'm so very glad to hear that. Absolutely. And I freely admit that the two cars that continually turn my head and make me wish I had unlimited funds to spend would be a Mach 5 and, of course, the A-Team van. I don't know why I have a soft spot for the A-Team van, but I would very much like to have one to drive.
The thing is huge. We're street parking the A-Team van, and I put it away 2 days ago.
Mhm.
And when I'm up against the curb, practically scraping the tires, I can still see the side view mirror of the Jurassic Park truck. You just forget how wide these 70s and 80s vehicles were. I'm like, wow, I'm in the street. I'm like, I'm going to get it sideswiped. And no, I'm practically scraping the curb. But it is really fun to drive. Here in LA, the guns had to be put away because if you use it to grocery shop or whatever, and you open it up and you've got racks and racks of guns inside, you've got a problem here.
Right.
I can see that.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Mach 5 have only driven it a short distance. Like I said, it is brand new. The wheels are on the ground and it's up on jack stands, and it's going to come down tomorrow as soon as it gets the rest of its red. But beautiful car, lots of incredible modifications. And then we get to put the toys on it. We get to put wings, which is something most people haven't seen in an actual Mach 5 that you can touch. The wings are going to protrude from this, the saw blades. It's got the bird door. It's got some really wonderful, everything you need for downtown LA traffic.
I would pay money to have saw blades on a car.
I don't think I would necessarily need it.
Go ahead. What's the matter, miss?
I don't know that I would need the blades necessarily in Rotterdam, but in Amsterdam, oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Great for off-roading, right?
Absolutely.
In theory, Speed Racer used to do 200 miles an hour through the forest, cutting down trees as he went.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't understand who came up with that wonderful idea.
It's anime logic.
There is a physics issue there, but
there's a lot of physics issues with the whole car. This one has jump jacks, and it takes maybe about a minute and a half to pick the car up off the ground. The good thing is I'll never need a jack to change tires on this again.
That is so cool. So you installed the internal jump jacks. That's fantastic.
It's got the jump jacks in there. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's not on jump jacks right now. I jacked it up ceremoniously, all right, so that I can take the wheels off. But nope, love them. But yeah, so many fun toys. There was a series, pilot series made called Force 3. It was actually live action masks. Does anybody remember those toys? Mm-hmm. There were these little Mattel toys, and they started out as a Camaro, and the wings opened up. It turned into a plane. There was a semi that turned into an armored battle tank. Oh. Anyway, there were 5 vehicles on this cartoon that ran for about 2 years. Dave knows. He's smiling. He's like, yeah, I had that stuff. I'm just not going to tell anybody.
Yeah, I hate to tell you. All right, Paul, we're like 5 minutes into the interview, and basically you're living 7-year-old Dave's wet dream.
So they made a live action mask, but they couldn't afford any more than 3 cars. One of the cars that I worked on was a Trans Am that had Stinger missiles that popped out of the doors. It had a 50 cal that came up out of the back, 4 rockets that came up out of the back, a rocket launcher, like everything you would see on a military vehicle. The hood scoop opened up, and there was a Gatling gun underneath there. The tail lights opened up, and you could do all this from one button. So it turned into a porcupine. Everything just opened up all at once. And I used to love at the stoplight because it opened very quickly. At stoplights, just when I'd be parked across cars in traffic, I'd open up everything all at once. So it just blossomed into this porcupine armored, just rolling war machine. And then before the light turned green, I would just close it all back up again and drive away really slowly. Fun toys. Love that one.
That would have actually have given Smokey and the Bandit a whole new aspect.
Oh, absolutely. That would have been great. I think you've got a remake there.
Yeah.
I just want a small credit. No big deal.
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can pencil it in.
Dave, you say you found your way into the job sort of by accident. Can you describe what happened?
Paul, not Dave.
Oh. I was like, all right, Dave. Yeah. All right, I want to hear Dave's story.
Dave has found everything in his career via accident. Like, oh, how the hell did I wind up here? So,
my bad. I'm sorry about that, Paul.
Parents took me to see the Adam West BatMobile. I was like 9 years old, and from that moment on, I knew that was the car I was going to get when I turned 17. My family had a car dealership in New Jersey, so I pretty much had unlimited access to anything. And people are like, "You're gonna buy a Charger? You're gonna buy a Camaro?" I'm like, "I'm gonna buy a Batmobile. That's what I'm gonna drive." And they tried to explain to this little kid that you can't buy Batmobiles. I turned 17 and Knight Rider came out. Does everybody remember that thing, the talking car with the light that went back and forth?
Of course, yeah.
Well, I decided that was a Batmobile. Oh wait, hey, for anybody who doesn't remember, here we go. See, Nate was good enough to have one on his desk here. So
I have a much larger one.
Yeah,
on my
yeah.
husband's
You have a
desk.
much larger one? Okay.
Mine's about so.
I'm doing this at home. This is the porcupine one, okay, that everything pops out of, and it's supposed to do 400 or 500 miles an hour. Anyway, so I wanted to buy that car. I went to the Philadelphia Auto Show, met a guy named Jay Orberg, and he wanted $3 million for the car. So I said, $3 million, you guys are on drugs. And that's what they wanted. And I said, this is a $10,000 car, brand new. I give you $35,000 not to put it away in the trailer. But they held fast at $3 million. I went home that afternoon, bought a brand new Pontiac Trans Am, has 7 miles on it. And I cut it into little pieces, much to my parents' horror. They said, this car has just left the lot and it's in pieces all over the driveway. I made myself a Knight Rider car and for fun drove it to LA. And all I wanted was a picture in front of the Universal Studios sign because I just thought it was going to be just great fun to have this awesome picture. So a picture you can't take today because it's surrounded by a water fountain. But back then it just used to be the driveway. Anybody could drive up and double park.
Right.
And I got into the studio really easily because they thought it was one of their cars. Getting in was easy. Getting out was not because they thought I was stealing the car. Okay. Yeah, they let me go anywhere. I drove all over the lot as this little kid from Jersey. I watched them film Jaws 3D, just sat up there with my sandwich on the hood of the car, watching filming all day, drove anywhere in the lot I wanted to go. Security just they're out there with their little batons telling everybody which way to go. They didn't care. They just dropped the batons. And so I said, fine, I'm going to drive throughout this lot, better than the tram. And then when I tried to leave, they were like, where's your paperwork to get this car out of here? And I'm trying to show them my Jersey license. Anyway, through a nice comedy of errors, I met someone from the transportation department and he recognized me. He's like, you're the guy who tried to buy the car. This one works. Ours only plug in. They don't work. Would you like the job?
Wow.
So, yeah. So one day I never had to carry a script in LA. I never had to wait tables. I never had to audition. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And I didn't go home.
That is so very cool.
Amazing. That's amazing.
So now I'm back.
Yeah.
All right.
Misty
I'm trying
Dave.
to commute. I'm trying to commute with all my work here. So things are taking longer on both coasts, but they're all getting done.
Oh, when you build a car, how much creative control do you have?
Depends on the project. Sometimes
Really?
someone will come to you with a sketch and go, this is what we want.
Okay.
And sometimes people will be like, we have an idea. And I'm like, your idea? No. I'm like, obviously the little sketches that you brought to me, you are not a car designer. I saw one that the whole thing looked like a rooster and it was supposed to be for a comic book, a live action comic book, but it was literally the Rooster Mobile. I said, I'm going to need a minivan that I'm going to put a giant chicken head on. I'm like, is this really the way you want to go with your live action comic book? So I showed him a concept Batmobile that had never been used. And I said, I will shoot this Ferrari red, give you some weapons and things that Batman never had. And he's held fast to his rooster. He's like, no, this is the way I draw it in the comic book. I'm like, it's a minivan with a rooster head on it. And then he started to look at his Ferrari and he's like, can we put the rooster head on the Ferrari? I'm like, I really don't want to do this. So the ultimate creative controls, I'm like, no. Get down the street, go to Home Depot, glue a chicken head on your car, and off you go.
It sounds like really the ultimate concept or brand car for like Pollo Loco.
Yeah, this is true. There is a rooster car downtown. I saw it. There's some chicken place that has it. And I'm like, wow, it's the car from this cartoon. He just needs to call these guys and rent it.
We need to bring it to Atlanta because we have a restaurant that is shaped like a giant chicken.
Nice.
Don't diss the big chicken, man.
The worst part is the eyes move. And when I first moved here, one of the eyes broke. The other one would spin, but one didn't. And everyone on the radio kept going, oh my God, the big chicken's had a stroke.
It's weird. And Paul doesn't know this, but it's weird how the big chicken has turned into this landmark in Marietta that it's not even that big. I'm sorry, Misty. I have to diss the Big Chicken.
No, okay.
How
First
big
of all,
is the Big Chicken there? I've been to
it's big.
Branson, and Branson has a 40-foot chicken.
Just was
Branson is still not the poultry capital of the known universe. That's my hometown,
It's
Gainesville.
the something else capital of the known universe. I won't go there.
Revisiting the concept of old white people.
There is that.
That too.
Oh my God. You're in such trouble.
All right, Mickey, I'm not rolling my eyes because you're dissing the Big Chicken. I'm rolling my eyes because you're mispronouncing the city. It's not Marietta, it's Marietta.
Oh my goodness.
First of all.
Thank you. I just learned something today too. You've corrected me as well.
It's one of those Southernism things. It's just, yes,
Marietta.
You're right.
Marietta.
I stand corrected. It's Marietta, but I can't stop saying Marietta. In fact, I think it's a little classy if you add like an Italian flair to it. Marietta, it's like bruschetta, but different.
Not working for her.
Paul.
Right. Back to Paul.
Well, what Paul doesn't know, and I hope our listeners can still remember that, is the majority of this podcast is frequently based in the great state of Georgia.
Yes.
I am the only regular member that is not currently based in the great state of Georgia, because I'm based right outside of Leiden in the Netherlands, but I'm still also the only native-born Georgian of the crew.
It's funny. The only native-born Georgian is not even in Georgia. That's right.
That's right.
So, Paul, I must ask, with all this really cool hardware around you, all these neat vehicles, what is your daily driver?
Something I can't find in a parking lot, and I don't care if it isn't there when I get out. I can call an Uber. That's the beauty of it. If you take a BatMobile to Home Depot, invariably there's someone in it when you come back out, because they're like, it's my dream. All right. And they're with no apologies whatsoever. If you take something like a Fast and the Furious car, the 2000s were incredible because I was driving some of the Fast and Furious cars as dailies. And I was repeatedly pulled over. And they said, do you know why I pulled you over? I said, because you thought you had a 17-year-old kid. And they were like, yes, you're not a teenager. What are you doing in this car? And so literally couldn't get where I wanted to go. And when I would come out of a store, there would be some guy taking photographs of his model girlfriend on the hood of my car. Like, this is great for her portfolio. So I'm like, it would be great if I could leave the Walgreens, thank you very much, and get off the hood of the car. So there are lots of reasons. We call these things, I call it, people are like, what's it like to own a BatMobile, or what's it like to own Fast and the Furious, or any of these weird cars? I said, it's like dating naked Britney Spears. All right. These cars will get you in anywhere, just like you were dating naked Britney Spears. It will get you presents. It will get you invitations. It will get you praise until you don't take it. So if you're driving a Jeep, which weapon of choice is the Jeep, it hauls things. Yes. All right. I think it was created specifically for people who wanted to just pack it full of stuff and never have two passengers in the rear seats. It's just a workhorse. But if you bring the Jeep, people would be like, we're so glad you came. Where is the BatMobile? And then when you tell them that it's home and I've got the Jeep outside, because they'll send people to rush outside, you have to see this guy's car. They're like, what's that? I'm like, it's a Jeep. I'm like, I don't care if it has door dings in it when I come back out. I'll just pop them out later on. But with the BatMobile, you literally have to sit there the entire time. Sure. So much on the downside, much like naked Britney Spears, you are forever wrangling, get away from the car. Okay, yeah, yes, and asking a million questions. If you drive down the highway, I was driving to Kevin Smith's comic book store to show him a BatMobile on the parkway, and I got boxed in. The people in front of me were driving 15 miles an hour with their camera hanging out of the window. People alongside of me were getting dangerously close, trying to get a better picture, and they're all screaming, pull over, it's my dream. And I'm like, that's every 2 miles. I'm like, it's my dream to get where I'm going in less than 3 hours.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. So as far as dailies go, they're fun. You can never get out of them. Everything's a drive-through. People are like, why are you coming through the drive-through with a BatMobile? Or why are you coming through the drive-through with that?
Right.
And I'm like, you can't leave it. No one will steal it because you're not going to get very far. I'm just going to stick with the BatMobiles because I've got Batman behind me over here.
Yeah.
All right. And I've got my Batman shirt. It's kind of a Batman week for us. You can't just park it and walk away. You have to sit in it the whole time and answer 1,000,000 questions. And you really do. I have some friends that are celebrities, and I totally understand the fact that they will sign autographs until their arms hurt. And then the one person that they say no to goes out and blogs about what a tremendous butt they are. So you answer questions until you can't talk anymore.
Sure, no doubt. But yeah, that's the nature of celebrity, I guess, in some way, except in this case, it's the person and the car, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm not famous. I have famous children.
That's very cool. Misty, Dave, do you have any more questions for Paul?
Oh, like 1,000, but
Well, go for it.
We can't have a 2.5-hour podcast.
That is true.
There is that. Although I wonder if you've ever heard, because there's a guy, I went to high school with him, the guy named Jeff McClure. He's known as the magical Mr. McClure, and he has a lot of his stuff featured in Dragon Con. And I know he just recently auctioned off a Jurassic Park Jeep. This guy is really good. He does an amazing Iron Man. Looks
Fantastic.
almost, yeah. He's also a magician. They do. He does so much other stuff, and I think he's also done the Scooby Gang van as well.
Yes,
The
that's
Mystery
a lot of
Machine.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a lot of fun. I've got a
yeah.
life-size Scooby-Doo that when I take that thing out, he just looks out the window the whole time.
The Mystery Machine has to smell like a 4-month-old bong on the inside, though.
It has to.
A 4-month-old pepperoni bong.
When you get a donor car, most of them do. When you first, I bought one in Nebraska. I'm like, whoa! Like, let's leave the windows down while we're towing this out of here.
So my final question for Paul is, if I really wanted an A-Team van and found a donor body to get one converted, how much would it cost me to drive home with an A-Team van?
Is that with or without 80,000 machine guns in the back of it?
I can supply the machine guns.
And that would come down to the creeper van that you bought. Okay, the creeper vans are especially proper GMCs. They're getting more and more rare because no one took their van and said, I'm going to keep it pristine. All right, you don't see Barrett Jackson. They're like, and we've got one for $400,000 that's got 12 miles on it, never driven. Okay, those GMCs were just beat to death.
Right.
All right, so trying to bring one back to life is the problem.
Yeah.
You're better off looking for someone who started an A-Team van, didn't realize what they were getting into. And they usually have a wing and some wheels on them and a black spray paint. So, so it varies. It all depends upon that. The A-Team van, real quick, I'll give you the grocery list. It's a wing, a roof visor, a brush guard, a lower spoiler, 4 flares, 4 wheels, louvers that never were on the series on the back, but everybody seems to like those, a bunch of CB antennas, and some fog lights on the front, nice coat of paint, and some really cool custom mirrors that I just finished replacing because the A-Team van did get sideswiped last week. And so anyway, so that's your entire cost. But it all comes down to the creeper van and how much you got to remove that free candy sign on the side that's been spray painted on there.
So, Mickey, I'm thinking you're going, I don't need 2 kidneys.
Something like that. I'm going to seriously see if I can find the right GM van here.
Sorry, you locked me up with the idea of you being armed.
Who, me?
Yes, with weapons.
In Atlanta, where I'm getting that from the people in Atlanta.
We are not your typical cast of Atlantans.
We're not, but I will surprise Dave by saying, anytime you want to go to the range, let's go.
Whereas I'm like the native born Georgian, and I'm like, no. And my son comes down, he's like, Mom, can I have a bastard sword? And I'm like, dude, any sword you touch. Your dad and I were not married when you were born.
Yeah.
And he's like,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and he's like, could I have a battle axe? I'm like, no.
Why not? Truth be told, all right, sharing a little bit too much here. Last night on eBay, I bought a Thundercat sword. All right, a full-on 48-inch Thundercat sword. There's actually, my client's got a Batman sword here.
That is awesome.
I I love being in a shop where there's props.
Look at that.
Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, my
Do
my
we know
son is.
Batman had a sword?
I didn't, but now I do, and I also know my son is not listening to this episode.
Yeah.
Right.
He's 22, so I'm also kind of like, dude, you got a job, go by yourself.
That's a
But
better argument.
yeah, I'm just
Too
like,
funny.
yeah, no, hi, no, thank you.
Let's do a handful of questions for Paul here, shall we?
Okay.
Let's shout.
What's your dream car, Paul?
Vector W8.
Oh
without
my
a doubt.
God. Yes.
Yes.
Hands down. That's fantastic.
Okay. I had an opportunity to pick one up about 2 months ago, but at the same time, I was in a junkyard, all right, out in the Mojave Desert, and there was an untouched, and I mean untouched, every brake light was fine, everything. There was an untouched 1975 Mercury Matador.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so yes, it wasn't the correct color. It was blue, had a little tiny door dent in it, but other than that, I had just bought that, and 5 minutes later, the guy called me up about the Vector. So now, why would I choose a 1975 AMC Matador over a Vector? I had hours before purchased the 45-foot wings from the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. All right, that mount to a 1975 Mercury Matador.
Yes.
I didn't have the Matador when I bought the wings, but I just said, someday I'll find a Matador and I will have this James Bond plane, a car that converts to a plane. And I walked into the junkyard looking for parts for something else, and it was in the corner. And I said, I have to have that. I'm like, it is just fate. So when I recover from shipping that from the Mojave Desert out to New Jersey, I will go back on my search for the Vector at the right price. They're getting fewer and fewer because people are taking them apart for pieces for other Vector. But that thing was, at the time when it was built in the late 70s, early 80s, 200 miles an hour was unheard of.
Yeah.
All right. And this thing is bulletproof, crash proof, and dent proof.
It has guillotine doors.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Gotta love it. Yes.
Man. All right.
So I love that thing. It's just gorgeous. Most of them just sit there, and the car just looks fast, just sitting there.
It is. I think that car was a little bit ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, Paul, where's your next road trip going to be?
My next road trip is probably going to be down to Florida to see if anything that's still in the storage facility hasn't floated away. I rescued. You were looking at my Facebook. I rescued 3 Lamborghini Countaches from a warehouse down close to Miami, and replaced it with a BatMobile. So there's a BatMobile sitting somewhere and hopefully hasn't floated away.
Yeah.
All right. And there were still some pieces. The customer said, "Oh, there was pieces of your Lamborghini you forgot." So those were rescues. They had gotten flooded in a storm 5 or 6 years before down in Florida.
I see.
All right, from that hurricane. So I got to run down there quick.
Yeah.
I have some Night Rider things to bring. So that's just a little quick road trip. I'm going to fly home this week and reset and get ready for Halloween. Mm-hmm. Halloween's always important. Everybody wants their Ghostbuster car and everybody wants their Batmobile. Like they're the first person that ever thought of having a Ghostbuster car at their party. Like corporate executives who say, we need a DeLorean time machine because our theme is Back to the Future when we started our company. Like, wow, you're the only person who's ever come up with that idea.
So
just keep talking. I'm gaining more and more appreciation for my CEO as you go along, because we had our end of the quarter meeting and company party last Friday, and I look amazingly well considering how hard we party in the Netherlands. I'm really proud of myself, but at least at least there wasn't this, I didn't have to roll my eyes and go, really, seriously. So thank you. Thank you for that.
So Paul, do people want to go home with the DeLorean and like own it, or are they just renting them?
Oh, everybody wants to until they see the price tag.
Yeah.
All right. They're like, oh, I would like to rent it for my prom. Okay, prom, the phone rings off the hook. People are like, I'd like to get the Batmobile for my prom. I'm like, okay. There was a movie called Patriot Games with Harrison Ford, and he's like, okay, I'd like to rent this. No, I'd like to buy this. And he's like, $2 million. Oh, okay, I'd like to rent it. Okay, I'll rent it to you, but there's a deposit required. How much? $2 million. All right.
All right. Question number 3. What's the most fascinating thing you've seen on the road or in someone's garage?
Most fascinating thing I've seen on the road. On the road, a tractor trailer that was completely fiberglassed to look like a dragon.
Wow.
And I mean, all the level of Disney detail on it. The entire front end was a dragon head, and it was painted and fiberglass the entire truck. So that you're talking 55, 60 feet of pure art going down the road. That was, and the murals, there were murals on top of murals airbrushed on this thing. So when you looked into, there were smaller dragons laying at its feet. When you looked at the smaller dragons that couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 feet, and you looked into their eyes, there was another landscape airbrushed of more dragons in the reflections of the eyes.
Amazing.
Wow.
Why this thing was on the road, I have no idea.
Wow.
It should be under glass.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was just very, very striking to see. We when you're driving transport trucks, other drivers were like, "What do you have in there? What do you have in there?" And everybody likes to like be little kids and show off their Matchbox toys.
Sure.
So one time, I think it was Dale Earnhardt's driver, like threw me the keys to the trailer. He's like, "What do you got in there?" And I'm like, "A bunch of James Bond vehicles, the Aston Martin and things like that." He's like, "Can I go look inside?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll open up." And I'm like, "Can I see Dale's stuff?" So I'm climbing all around in there. So it was great. And lots of interesting things you see on the road.
That's cool. Yeah, if you pay attention, there's a lot of interesting stuff.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Our last question for you today, always something random and silly. You're now I can't ask that question. If someone,
how bad is the question that we can't use it on?
Is it the cheese question?
It's not the cheese question.
Okay, the cheese question. All right.
We've asked this question before, which is why I'm a little reluctant to use it. It's the original question was: you're now a superhero with an unlikely power. Is it the ability to shoot meatballs out of your nostrils, or the power to create force fields, but only around ants? See how silly that question is?
I know, but there's a lot of deep thought with that question there. It's like, what if there's a time that you need to have a force field for ants? I mean, you'd be a hero at a picnic. Imagine just being able to have a picnic and being ant free. I'm like that,
or being able to scoop up a whole fire ant farm and drop it on your enemies.
There's a lot of hostility going on there this morning. Huh?
I was actually just like keeping.
You have a lot of thought in that.
We haven't had
that was
coffee
a preloaded question.
Yeah,
it was. Okay. I was not on the show where we asked this before.
Oh, you weren't? Okay.
Yes.
I don't think I was either.
I'm masking my horror with morbid curiosity.
That's weaponized ants.
Weaponized ants.
Weaponized ants.
I think weaponized ants are a lot more effective than weaponized meatballs.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. The people at DC are massively scribbling right now because Marvel, sorry, got to give it credit where credit is due. Marvel's like, okay, Ant-Man now has an ant bomb.
Right. That's right. All right. So we'll switch. We will count that question.
But I haven't really come up with a use to shoot meatballs out of my nose. It's happened. Okay. But all right. But
I mean, you could feed the world, I suppose. That would be kind of odd, but
But would they eat them?
Yeah, that's a good question.
As opposed to out of another orifice?
Oh, see.
That's a different podcast.
Dave, stop it. Stop it.
I didn't say which orifice. It could have been your ears.
Stop it.
Paul, thank you very much for being our guest today. I hope you'll come join us on Mike again at some point.
Absolutely.
You can see that we just have a sort of nonsensical amount of fun on the show.
You are a delightful guest, Paul.
I thank you very much.
Indeed. Although it is a very weird day when I'm the one saying stop it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost never Misty.
Make sure your son doesn't watch the podcast.
I'm not letting him. I'm so thankful he's upstairs doing whatever it is he's doing with the rest of the kids. The whole rule is I have one kid legally, but I've ended up with like 6 kids. Because I'm just like, okay,
do the authorities know about this?
No.
She's in the Netherlands. They're a little more.
I just ended up with these kids. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm shopping for them at the mall again.
Paul, is there a website for you we need to plug, an Instagram or anything?
No, I'm great. You know what? I want to thank my host at starcarcentral.com here in LA. Okay, for his hospitality and his computer and things like that. Otherwise, you'd see me sitting on the hood of a car on my phone.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I really appreciate that too. Let's answer the trivia question for the day, shall we? Dave, you didn't say
we got to go back to this car and this tape deck here.
Right. What was the last new car sold with a cassette tape player? Was it the 2010 Rutan, the 2010 Lincoln Town Car, the 2010 Cadillac CTS wagon, or the 2010 Lexus SC430? Paul, as our guest, do you want to take the first shot?
I'm going to think that we're going to go with the old white people again. The Lexus, they want to be ahead of their time. All right. It's the high-end brand of Nissan. I really think that they even looked at the CD player at the time and went, no, not to the CD player. So we'll take that one off the list. And I got to go between the station wagon and the Lincoln. Lincolns are still run by every grandma and grandpa. So let's give grandma and grandpa the cassette.
Lincoln Town Car? Okay.
Yeah, let's go with the Lincoln Town Car.
Misty, what do you think?
Yeah, I had the same train of thought.
Mhm.
So I'm going with the Lincoln.
Dave?
How the hell with it, just for variety? I'll go with Lexus.
Lexus. Well, the answer is, in fact, the Lexus.
Wow.
A 2010 Lexus SC430 Lexus offered an in-dash cassette player through 2010. Alas, the V8 drop top fails to see the 2011 model year, and the factory-equipped cassette player dies with it. So makes you wonder what the demographic the marketing team was aiming for at the time. But
I was convinced I was wrong.
Right. So Lexus. Lexus
Go Dave.
Yeah.
I did not see that one coming.
I know Bupkus on these trivia things.
So cool. Paul, again, I hope you'll join us on Mike sometime, and thank you for being our guest today.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Take care, everybody. This is The Thing About Cars. We'll see you again with another episode in about a week.
Looking forward to it.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.